Have you ever heard a tiny whimper rise from a pile of trash? I have. That moment felt like a hand gripping my throat, forcing me to stop. There are scenes in life you can turn away from and forget instantly, but not that sound. It lodged deep inside me, throwing my breath off rhythm. I saw 7 Doberman puppies, no more than a month old, huddled in a rotting wooden crate tossed carelessly by the creek. Their bodies trembled violently, patches of fur fallen away, raw red sores and white fungal scales spreading across their skin, lumps bulging beneath the thin flesh. One lay in the middle, belly swollen tight as a gourd, breathing shallow, like embers about to fade. Someone had thrown them there, covered them with a soaking bag of trash, and left them to die. I dropped to my knees beside them, my hand reaching out, shaking, then freezing midair. 7 cloudy eyes stared up, no longer frightened, no cries for help. Only one silent question cut straight through my chest. Will you turn away too? Footsteps behind me pulled me back. A couple had stopped, glanced over. The woman tugged her husband's arm, whispered, "Don't touch them. They're diseased." They hurried off, never looking back. I watched them go, then looked down again. My chest felt crushed, heavy as stone. I thought of Sarah, my wife, the day she lay in my arms on her deathbed, breath fading. Then I had been powerless, forced to let fate take her. I swore this time I would not let it happen again. I pulled off my thick coat and spread it over the damp ground. One by one, I lifted each tiny body onto it. They were so light it hurt, their trembling warmth searing against my skin. One gave the faintest whimper, thin as a wisp of wind. I wrapped the coat tight, gathered them all against my chest, holding as if letting go would make them vanish. "No, little ones," I whispered, my throat tight. "You are not garbage. You are lives. And as long as you still breathe, I will not leave you to die in this darkness." I stood, my legs heavy with mud, with fear pressing down on my chest. Each step drained what strength remained in this aging body. I opened the door of my old pickup, set the coat and 7 fragile bodies onto the passenger seat. They pressed into one another, wheezing breaths tangled like a broken orchestra. I shut the door and started the engine. The rumble echoed through the thick fog, lighting the road ahead. I knew from that moment the journey for me and these 7 small souls had begun, a battle with no promise of victory, but one certainty: I would not abandon them. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my eyes locked on the road unfolding through the heavy fog. The old pickup shook with every pothole. On the passenger seat, 7 Doberman puppies were curled inside my coat, their frail bodies piled together like a heap of ashes still holding warmth. I leaned my ear toward them, straining to catch every raspy breath, each fragile sound cutting into my chest like a blade. The one in the middle, the one with the swollen belly, let out a faint wheeze with every inhale. I glanced over, my knuckles bone-white against the wheel. I whispered, almost a prayer, "Don't leave, little one. Please don't give up on me. I haven't gotten you to safety yet. Just hold on a little longer." I rolled the window down to let in the cold wind, hoping it would push away the stench of sickness. But instead, the chill squeezed my lungs. The wind carried memories. Back when Sarah was alive, we used to drive this same truck through the Ohio countryside, stopping just to stroke a stray cat or feed a hungry dog. She always said, "Thomas, even if we stop for just 1 minute, it might be the minute that decides life or death for them." Now, I was living her words. Only this time, 7 fragile lives were betting everything on me. A red light stopped me. I tapped my hand against the wheel, impatient. Pedestrians crossed, some glancing at the truck. A few grimaced at the sight of the soaked, shivering fur. They turned their faces away, just like they had when those puppies were tossed by the creek. My chest burned, my throat tightened. I flicked on the turn signal, slammed the gas the second the light went green. I knew time was slipping. On the seat, one puppy convulsed, its tiny head lifting then falling limp. I reached out for just a second, steadying that frail body, reminding myself I was driving not just for me, but for all 7. In my head, I repeated, "I cannot be late." Not this time. The road eastward stretched like eternity. I cut through the old neighborhood, the one with alleys where Sarah and I once stopped for vegetables. Now the stores were shuttered, their paint peeling. I didn't linger. All my focus stayed on one memory guiding me: the weathered wooden sign in front of Peterson's clinic. The breathing in the truck grew more erratic. Their whimpers rose with each mile, the cab becoming a kind of moving emergency room, time shrinking second by second. For a moment, I thought of the flags draped over coffins of comrades long ago, the helplessness of watching life slip away. I would not let that image replay here, not with these souls. The truck swerved, the back tires sliding on wet pavement. I clenched the wheel, exhaled sharply. Then I heard it, a sound, weak but longer, steadier. The swollen-bellied pup was still breathing. My chest tightened, but tears streaked down my face as I whispered, smiling through them, "That's it. Keep breathing." We're almost there. The road narrowed, houses grew sparse, and then a pale yellow light emerged through the fog. The faded letters were still just clear enough to read, Peterson Veterinary Clinic. My heart pounded as if I had found light at the end of a tunnel. I turned in and braked hard in front of the door. I killed the engine, rushed around to the passenger side, and lifted the heavy coat in my arms. 7 tiny bodies huddled close, soaked, stinking of sickness. I pushed open the clinic door, the bell jingling overhead. Inside, white light spilled across a cold steel table. Dr. Peterson looked up from his desk. His eyes fell on me, then froze when he saw the trembling lives I carried. "Oh, Lord, Thomas," he breathed, springing to his feet. I laid the coat on the steel table, my voice shaking. "They may see them as trash, but to me, they're lives. Please, save them." The exam light glared down on their small frames, their shadows stretching long across the cold surface. I stood there, heart pounding, knowing that their fight for life was truly beginning now. The steel table was ice cold under the harsh lights. I stood frozen beside it, still clutching the coat that had carried 7 Doberman puppies. Dr. Peterson pulled on his gloves, his voice low but urgent. "Lay them down, Thomas. We have to start now or it'll be too late." I opened the coat, and one by one their frail little bodies came into view, thin, soaked, skin mottled and raw, a sharp stench of fungus, pus, and blood mixed thick in the air. The nurse rushed in with more trays, the clatter of metal making my chest tighten. Severe fungal mange, widespread skin infection, abdominal fluid, and here... Peterson bent over the pup in the middle, its belly swollen tight. He drew in a deep breath, his eyes heavy. "If we don't drain it, this one won't make it through the night." I swallowed hard, my throat parched. My legs felt nailed to the floor. I wanted to shout, "Save it!" But all that left my lips was a whisper. "Please, don't let them give up." The emergency began. Peterson slid painkillers into each pup, his hands quick and precise. He called out as he worked, "Antibiotics." Sterile gauze. Small scalpel. The tiny room turned into a battlefield, every second a race against death. I couldn't sit. I leaned against the wall, my eyes locked on every movement of his hands. One pup had its rotting fur shaved clean, raw red skin exposed. Peterson disinfected and wiped as it gave a faint whimper before falling silent. My heart pounded. I clenched my fists so hard my nails pierced my palms. When Peterson made the first incision into the swollen belly, thick yellow fluid poured out, choking the stench. I turned my head for a moment, but forced myself back. I wouldn't allow myself to look away. Every drop that drained was one more chance for that pup to breathe easier. "Hold it steady! Quick! Suction!" Peterson barked. The nurse handed over the tube, the machine whirring steadily. To me, it sounded like a ticking clock, each beat tied to that fragile life's fate. Inside, I repeated a prayer. "Stay with me, little one. Don't leave. I'm right here." 2 hours dragged on like a lifetime. On the steel table, 7 tiny bodies were split into groups. Some are already bandaged, antibiotics flowing through fragile veins. Others are still waiting, eyes shut, breathing in broken fragments. Peterson changed gloves over and over, sweat dripping down his forehead, his white coat streaked with blood and antiseptic. He turned to me, exhaling. "Thomas, 4 are stable. But 3 left, especially the swollen one. It's very weak. We have to keep going." I stepped closer, bent down to whisper in its ear, though I knew it might not hear. "I promised I wouldn't leave you. Please don't let go. I need you to stay." My trembling finger brushed its head. For a split second I felt its eyelid twitch, maybe just a reflex, but to me it was an answer. The snip of scissors, the clatter of wet gauze hitting metal trays filled the room. The smell of blood, antiseptic, and life itself, the frantic scent of hope, thickened the air until it felt hard to breathe. I closed my eyes, hearing my heartbeat fall in rhythm with the weak beeps of the monitor by the small bed. Night had fallen beyond the windows, but in this room, time no longer mattered. Only the silent war between life and death, between human hands and trembling creatures clawing for a way out. When Peterson peeled off his gloves for the last time, he stood still, gazing at the 7 pups on the table. He wiped his forehead, his voice hoarse. "We've done all we can. Now we wait." I sank into the wooden chair, my hands still carrying the smell of blood and medicine. My heart hung suspended, knowing this was only the beginning. The real battle lay ahead, in recovery, where each fragile breath would decide tomorrow. I sat motionless on the wooden chair in the hallway, my hands clasped so tightly together they shook as though blood no longer ran through them. The sharp scent of antiseptic hung thick in the air, clinging to my clothes, seeping into my skin. The ticking of the wall clock rang out loud and steady, each beat like a hammer striking my chest. Dr. Peterson had taken the 7 Doberman puppies into recovery. Before closing the door, he said only one sentence. "Now we wait, Thomas. It's all in their choice." His words hung like a suspended verdict. Their choice? I asked myself. What choice did these tiny lives have, other than clinging to each broken breath? I jumped to my feet and pressed against the glass door. Inside, 7 small bodies swaddled in white bandages lay still in heated cages. A few tails twitched weakly. A few chests rose and fell like trembling leaves in the wind. My eyes fixed on the swollen-bellied pup. It had been placed in a corner, its body curled as if wrestling with a nightmare. A thin IV line pierced its fragile leg. I laid my palm against the cold glass and whispered, "I'm here, little one. Do you hear me?" I'm not leaving. Memories of Sarah surged like a tide. I saw her in that old raincoat, kneeling by the roadside years ago to cradle a drenched stray, even as people warned, "Don't touch it, it's diseased."
I still remember her looking up, rain streaming down her face, smiling as she said, "If we don't stop, who will?" Now I understand. This morning, I had done the very same thing. Though Sarah was gone, her voice still whispered inside my heart. Waiting felt like punishment. Every whimper that slipped from the room pierced me. I paced, sat down hard, gripped my knees until they ached. I thought of the years after Sarah died. The empty house, the silent dinners, the long days dragging without meaning. If I hadn't found these 7 souls this morning, I would still be drifting like a ghost. And now they were pulling me back from the depths of loneliness. The door swung open. Peterson stepped out, removed his glasses, and sighed. I shot up, my heart skipping a beat. "How are they, Doctor?" My voice cracked, hoarse. He laid a hand on my shoulder. 4 are improving. Their heartbeats are steadying. 2 others are still fragile, but there's hope. The swollen one. He paused. It's very delicate. We're doing everything we can. I nodded, lips trembling. I didn't ask more. Some truths can't be softened with words. I returned to the glass, fixed my eyes on it, and whispered, just for myself, "I've already lost 1 person. I don't want to lose you. Please, choose to stay." An hour passed. I sat there drained, my head sinking, my eyes burning. Then I heard it, a faint sound from the cage, a weak cry but longer, clearer. I jerked upright. The swollen pup shifted its head, its eyelids flickering. Its chest rose unevenly but stronger than before. I pressed my forehead to the cold glass, my vision blurring. "You hear me, don't you?" Good. So good. In that moment, it felt as though the whole room lit up, as if hope itself had brushed my heart. Peterson stepped beside me, his voice gentler now. "That's a good sign, Thomas." It's fighting I didn't answer. Hot tears streamed down my face. I pressed my hand to the glass, watching that fragile breath, and I made a vow. Whatever it cost, I would stay here, fighting with them until the very end. In the days that followed, my life narrowed into a single routine, from home to the clinic, from the clinic back home. Every morning, I was already waiting at the door when Peterson unlocked it, my arms carrying a thermos of warm water and a bag of food he'd told me to prepare. I no longer counted time in hours or days, but in each fragile breath of the 7 small lives still fighting. The recovery room glowed with a cold white light, but to me, every small sound from the heated cages was like a new heartbeat. 7 puppies, each wrapped in a soft cloth of a different color to tell them apart. Still skin and bone, still patchy and raw, but their breathing was no longer as frantic as on that first day. Especially the swollen-bellied one, the weakest. Now its chest lifted higher, slower, but steadier. I spread a blanket on the floor beside the cages and sat there for hours. I didn't reach in, didn't hurry. I just sat and told stories. I told them about Sarah and her summer garden, where lavender bloomed purple across the yard. I told them about our old dog, Charlie, who used to sleep beneath the wooden workbench in my shop. I told them about road trips, when Sarah made me stop the truck just to pet a stray cat. The stories weren't only for them. They filled the hollow inside me, too. Peterson said once, "Sometimes you don't need to do anything. Just stay." I believed he was right, because after 5 days, a miracle happened. That morning, a nurse handed me a small spoon and a bowl of thin porridge made from chicken and vegetables. "Try," she said. "Don't force it. Let them choose." My heart pounded. I scooped a spoonful, blew gently, and slid it through the bars. At first, nothing. They lay still, eyes dull, as if staring through me.
I held my hand steady, not pulling back. A minute passed, then 2. My arm began to tingle, and then, suddenly, the smallest one in the corner nudged its nose forward, hesitated, and licked. Just once, soft and uncertain. My throat closed. Tears stung my eyes, but I kept my voice calm. Good. Good little one. You've chosen to live. Peterson stood at the doorway, and I saw in his eyes a light I hadn't seen since the first day. That's the sign, he said. They're starting to come back. From that moment, hope spread like a flame. At night, I carried Sarah's old book, sat beside the cages, and read aloud page by page. Some nights, a tiny ear flickered as if listening. Other nights, a little head rested against another's back, its breath deepening at the sound of my voice. On the 10th day, Peterson told me to sit closer. He spread a clean blanket on the floor and, one by one, placed the puppies onto it. 7 fragile bodies trembled under the light, eyes darting around the room. I sat with my palms open on the blanket. One of them inched forward, hesitated, then rested its tiny chin in my hand. Its breath was warm, fragile, but real. My heart opened wide. I bent down and whispered, "That's it. You're safe now." Those steps were small, but to me they were miracles. Every lick of a spoon, every shaky step outside the cage, every cautious glance back at me, they were bricks rebuilding the trust that had once been shattered inside them. That afternoon, as I left the clinic, I realized I had stopped counting the seconds of dread. Instead, I was counting moments of rebirth. Another lick of the spoon, another steady breath, another pair of eyes finding their way back to me. I knew the road ahead was still long. Their bodies were weak, their skin still marked by wounds. But once a flame is lit, if someone tends it, it will burn. And I had decided I would be the one to keep that flame. 2 weeks after the first day, they licked the spoon of porridge, and Peterson stepped out of recovery with a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. "Thomas, these 7 little ones are strong enough to leave here. From now on, what they need is space, sunlight, and a home." I froze, my eyes drifting to the room where 7 tiny bodies slept tucked inside colored blankets. The thought that they would no longer be confined in heated cages made my chest burn warm. But then another worry rose. My home was just a small 3rd-floor apartment. No yard, no garden, only a narrow balcony overlooking a parking lot. How could I bring 7 fragile lives, fresh out of darkness, only to trap them again within 4 walls? That night I opened my computer and typed, "Small house for rent with yard, Cincinnati." The listings scrolled past, some too expensive, some too far. I kept searching until I stopped on a small pale blue house with a slanted roof, a white wooden fence wrapping around a patch of untamed grass. Morning sunlight streamed through its east-facing windows. Just looking at it, my heart felt at peace. 3 days later, I held the keys in my hand. A week after that, the old pickup carried me and the 7 Dobermans down a dirt lane to the new home. They lay in the truck bed, each wrapped in a colored blanket, little heads poking out, eyes wide with curiosity. I stopped, opened the wooden gate. Beyond it stretched green grass dotted with wildflowers swaying in the breeze. One by one, I lifted them down. They froze, legs trembling, eyes darting around the vast, unfamiliar space. The softness of the grass beneath their paws made them shrink back, as if fearing this was just another trap. I knelt, my voice low and steady. "Go on, little warriors. This is your home." For a moment, they stood still. Then one, the smallest, stepped forward. It lowered its nose to the grass, breathed in deep. Then another step, and another. Suddenly, the whole pack burst forward. They bolted across the yard, paws tearing through grass, ears flying, tails whipping. No barking, only the thud of tiny feet against earth and the rush of breath full of life. I stood in the middle of the yard, turning with them, laughing as tears streamed down my face. I couldn't stop. To see 7 lives that had once shivered in a trash crate now leaping in sunlight, it tore my heart open. What struck me hardest was that none of them looked back. They ran as if they already knew. From now on, no one would ever lock them in darkness again. One suddenly turned, raced toward me, and leapt into my arms, its whole body pressed against me, the smell of grass and sweat mingling. The others followed, circling close, tongues out, eyes gleaming bright. I collapsed into the grass, surrounded, smothered by the press of warm bodies, as if they were trying to hold me with all the life they had just reclaimed. That evening, as they slept scattered across the porch floor, their breathing steady and warm, I sat watching the moonlight spill across the blanket. I took an old frame and slid into it the photo I had taken that afternoon. 7 small bodies sprinting in the sunlight, ears sharp against the wind. Beneath it, in shaky letters, I wrote, "Absolutely worth saving." I set the frame on the wooden table by the door. I wanted it there so every time I walked through, I would be reminded, once, 7 lives had been dismissed as worthless. But today, they stood as proof of faith, of life, of love without condition. I closed my eyes, listened to their steady breathing around me, and knew it wasn't only they who had found a home. I, too, had opened a new door in my life. That winter in Cincinnati came later than usual. Mornings in the little blue house, I wasn't woken by an alarm clock, but by something gentler. The click of claws on the wooden floor, warm breaths under the bedroom door, and 7 tails beating the air in anticipation. I opened the door, and the whole pack rushed in, swirling around me like a small storm. The same bodies that had once trembled in darkness were now sturdy, eyes clear, skin healed. No more oozing sores, no more stench of sickness, only the smell of fresh grass and the wild energy of youth. In the afternoons, I sat on the porch, watching them chase each other across the yard. Sunlight painted gold across the grass, wind tossing their ears as they ran. I felt myself smiling, a smile I thought had died with Sarah. It struck me then that these 7 lives had taught me how to smile again. One day, while cleaning the shed, Duke, the largest, dragged out a torn, yellowed piece of cardboard. He dropped it at my feet, then sat, his eyes stripped of their usual mischief. I bent down, recognized it at once. It had come from the dump by the creek. The cruel message once scrawled on it was faded now, but I could still picture the words. I sat on the step, the 7 crowding around me. I struck the old lighter and held it to the cardboard. Blue flame curled its edges, swallowing the last trace of that past. Ash scattered in the wind, gone into the sky. I laid my hand on Duke's head, my voice breaking. No one will ever call you worthless again. Never. That night, I printed a photo of the pack running wild through the grass, ears sharp against the wind, sunlight on their backs. I framed it and set it by the front door. Beneath it, in clear letters, I wrote, "Absolutely worth saving." Every time I walked inside, my eyes found it, and I knew in my heart, everything had been worth it. Once, a neighbor stopped by. She stood silent for a while, watching the 7 tumble and play. Then she smiled, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Mr. Reed, God sent them to you, and you gave them back their lives." I only smiled, answering softly, "No." they're the ones who saved me. Spring came, and wildflowers bloomed across the yard. The dogs and I often walked down the dirt path behind the house. Some days, they stopped at a slope that led toward the old dump. I stopped too, a lump rising in my throat. They didn't know, or maybe they did, that this was where it all began. I knelt down, touched my chest, and whispered, "This is where I found you. But you don't belong to that past anymore. You belong to this sky, this light." They circled me, as if forming a ring of protection, and I understood. From now on, I wouldn't just be the one sheltering them. They would shelter me too, with their presence, their loyalty, their warm breath. Many nights, as I sat reading at my desk, 7 dogs sprawled around me, and I swore I could hear a whisper in the silence. "Thank you." Maybe it was only imagination, but I believed it true. Because each time my eyes met theirs, I felt it. The deep gratitude, a language without words. If anyone asks me how I saved those 7, I'll tell them simply, they saved me. They pulled me out of empty years, taught me there are still countless reasons to wake each morning, to trust, to love. And I want to ask you, the one listening to this story, have you ever saved a life, no matter how small? If you have, tell it. Because sometimes in that act, we realize love doesn't just rescue another, it rescues us too. If you've stayed with me to this very moment, let me thank you. The story of 7 small Dobermans is not just about survival, but proof that compassion can change an entire world. I believe out there, countless little lives are still waiting for one hand to reach out, one heart that won't turn away. Have you ever saved a dog? If so, share your story in the comments. Let those memories spread, so someone in despair will know there are still kind hearts in this world, that no dog should ever shiver in the dark, abandoned and alone. And if this story has touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel. Stay with us, because every subscription, every share is another small light warming lost lives. Together, we can build a world where no one is called worthless, and every breath is worth protecting.